Joining me now for reaction from West Palm Beach, Florida, is best-selling author Ann Coulter. And with me here in Washington, D.C. is Mark Krikorian, the Executive Director for the Center for Immigration Studies. And also in Washington is Jonathan Swan. He's a national political reporter for Axios. Jonathan, let's start with you. I did some reporting tonight before the show on what happened in that meeting. Without belaboring the point on what the president said inside, this bill does not go close at all, in my mind, to reaching those non-negotiables that President Trump has set out very clearly.
Well, you saw it from the start. I looked up at the television this morning and it said, Flake, we have struck a deal on immigration. You could not have had a worse messenger for that deal than Jeff Flake, for a start. Secondly, as soon as I knew that it was Flake, Durbin and Graham, I was like, okay, well, where's Tom Cotton? Where's Perdue? Where are some of these other people that the president wants to listen to? And the way today played out was Durbin and Graham were going to go to the White House. They had it all planned out. They were going to meet with the president. They show up, they go into the cabinet room, and the doors swing open, and in walks Cotton, Perdue, Goodlatte. And they freaked. They was like, oh, okay. And then the real conversation happens, which is obviously that the deal that was presented this morning.
I mean, but is Durbin and Flake, Ann Coulter, I want to go to you. Do they think the president, they must think the president is stupid. They're going to walk into this meeting and try to buffalo Trump on immigration on these points? Jeff Flake didn't vote for President Trump, and he wrote a whole book trashing him. And he's like, well, I have the idea, Mr. President. We're going to increase chain migration and do all these stuff. And take it away.
Yes, and as you say, he's so popular in his home state, he can't run for re-election. These politicians, they are like drug addicts. I don't know what the American people have to do. 3 times Congress has tried to slip through amnesty in the last 10 years in the dead of night. Luckily, it's now people are paying attention. And all 3 times it was shut down, not by a major network, not by one particular politician. Somehow it leaked out, and the American people shut down congressional switchboards. We just put a reality TV star developer in the White House. Some would say he's not the typical president. Why? Because he talked about Mexican rapists and promised to build a wall. I thought on November 8th, all these Republicans in Washington need to see like trucks of Depends being sent in because they'd be so afraid of what the public was saying to them. I mean, my final thing I would say about this is, remember Ross Perot had this idea, it just occurred to me when you were talking about it, where you'd have like national referenda on certain issues. I so wish we could have a secret ballot national referenda on immigration, on any amnesty, on Dreamers amnesty, on amnesty for anyone, on the wall. I mean, I think we did that on November 8th, but wow, the Republicans want their donors and the Democrats want the votes.
I mean, Mark Krikorian, I actually am surprised. They didn't even try to dress this up as something that's different. It's actually worse than the Gang of 8 bill. It's actually worse than that was in many respects because it directly increases chain migration by allowing these 800,000 to sponsor uncles, aunts, adult children, all this, and then the parents get to stay for 3-year revolving, rotating periods of time.
I mean, when I read about this, it really seemed to me almost consciously contemptuous of what the president wanted to do. Look, the whole...
Do you think they're trying to blow it up on purpose?
No. I think they think he really is a moron and they can push him around.
I mean, it's unbelievable. They actually, when he said, I'll do whatever you guys want, when he made that offhand
they took that
comment,
literally?
I guess they did, but they've been working on this, Mark, for months. And this is what these bozos, I'm sorry to be uncharitable, come up with?
And you know what was maybe really struck me was for 15 years, the whole argument for the Dreamers and DACA is that they didn't commit a crime. They came as kids, weren't legally responsible. Well, this bill amnesties their parents, too, who didn't come as children, who brought them here. I mean, it is... I thought it was a joke at first, I have to admit. I did not think this was serious.
Now, Jonathan, Congressman Pramila Jayapal from Washington State made a comment today directly at this issue of chain migration. Let's watch.
This idea that chain migration is real is really only something that people who know nothing about immigration will say, because chain migration doesn't, for the most part, exist. It took me 18 years to get my citizenship. If I had tried to get my parents to come here as a U.S. citizen, it would have taken many more years.
Jonathan, doesn't exist at all. It's only 44% of all green card recipients this past year were from chain migration, and another 23%, Mark, were from other family-based immigration. Right. Only 18% were jobs-related.
I don't even know what to make of that. I was sort of my eyes were bulging watching that clip.
But that's how the immigration in the United States has ballooned over the years, and it's ballooned beyond what anyone had ever thought. And Anne, you know, we have this story that we're going to get to next segment about something that just happened in Denver, Colorado. Now, as you know, media outlets do not dig for immigration status on these crimes. So you have to, like, call, like, 3 or 4 people, you get transferred, and then finally you find someone who said, yeah, by the way. So we did that. We're going to reveal that next segment. But just the issue of crime alone is something that we have to keep front and center, because that directly relates to the American people.
Yes, well, that's how Adios America became my book on immigration, became a book on immigration. It was only going to be 1 chapter, and I go to look up, you know, what would any country want to know about the people it's bringing in? Legal immigrants we're talking about here. Well, how many are in prison, and what countries are they from? No, the government specifically suppresses that information. The media isn't asking any questions, and then they turn around and blow up at a comment like Trump's. Well, from the information in Adios America, actually Haitians do seem to be wildly overrepresented in our prison system, and Norwegians really quite underrepresented. And I notice only one side of this debate wants to know the facts. It's our side who keeps saying, hey, could you just count? It's not that hard to figure out how many immigrants are in prison. Could you count them?
Right. Well, there's a story coming out tomorrow specifically about Arizona, which will be hitting tomorrow. Jonathan, who has the president's ear on immigration in the White House? Stephen Miller is one of the last of the, I think, original Trumpites in the White House. There's a couple of others, but not many, just on this particular issue. Is Stephen Miller, does he have influence? I know the president is his own man. He runs his own show. But Miller is one of the experts on this issue.
Yeah, Miller has a lot of influence, and he's really the only one in the White House who actually really understands this issue and has studied it in a very careful way. John Kelly obviously cares about border enforcement, but he doesn't know immigration policy like Stephen Miller does. But, you know, everyone obsesses over the palace intrigue and the infighting. This is actually one of those issues where Trump himself has very strong, hardwired instincts and has done for a long time, immigration and trade. And so, yes, there are moderate liberals in there like Gary Cohn and Jared Ivanka who would be horrified by the comment he made today, but they've basically given up trying to really, they know where this is heading and where the president's instincts
And Mark,
are.
the president's instinct on this issue was always derided and reviled by the establishment. They called him racist, xenophobic. They're still doing it. And they'll do it even if he agreed to something like this. They did it yesterday. So the president sticks to his instincts on this. If you want to get rid of chain migration, then maybe he has to do some deal on DACA, but it has to be verifiable. There have to be real triggers. It can't be this. You know, the Goodlatte bill, we don't have time to get into it, is a lot closer.
Oh, it's a much better bill, there's no question. And the president's instincts, the way I think about it, is that he's sort of the man on the street on immigration. That's kind of, he's in the White House, but his views
Listen to
and
those
his
callers.
instincts are
Listen
the
to
man
those
on the
callers.
street.
Those
Exactly.
as African-American and 2 women.
Right.
Young African-American male in Chicago, and I believe it was 1 woman and a man. And those were representative, by the way, the calls into my show today. These are people, a lot of them are like, I'm not even political. I don't even follow Fusion GPS. But on this issue, I've seen my opportunities shrink, and I've seen the country change, and we didn't vote for any of this. I'm not racist. I believe in immigration, but this is wrong. And I'm telling you, people are mad. I don't care what they say about DACA polls. People are livid about this, and I think the president gets it. I really do. Everybody, by the way, great segment. Ann and Mark, stay right there. This conversation is continuing over something the president said. We referenced it in the Oval Office about countries where certain illegal immigrants come from and legal immigrants do not move. President Trump has driven much of the mainstream media bonkers once again. Fox News is among a number of outlets that confirmed a Washington Post report that during an Oval Office meeting with lawmakers on immigration today, that one we were just talking about, Trump balked at that deal and said, and I substitute one particular word here, why are we having all these people from blank hole countries come here? The president was reportedly referring to the countries of Haiti, El Salvador, And, of course, that's the home of MS-13, mind you, and some African nations. CNN completely freaked out.
The president seems to harbor racist feelings about people of color from other parts of the world.
The president has racist views. I mean, you know, how long do we have to dance around that issue?
Jeffrey Toobin talking about dancing is not something I ever want to think about. Let's bring back Ann Coulter and Mark Krikorian, and also welcome immigration attorney Michael Wilds in New York. Ann, let's go to you on this issue of the blank hole countries. Because he said that, Toobin and Acosta go right to the same old trope. They tried in 2016. Donald Trump is obviously then harboring ill will toward people of color.
Right, and don't change the channel from Laura's show, but this is the funnest night to watch CNN since election night. It's fantastic. That's not good enough. I do still want a wall. So he's not going to win me back with just, you know, his rhetoric again. He said he's going to build a wall 1,000,000 times. Not until we actually see the wall. But you know, I think it's worth mentioning. This is exactly what all of the Democratic sponsors of the 1965 Immigration Act promised us. Teddy Kennedy, Bobby Kennedy, the Washington Post, Emanuel Seller swore up and down. This Immigration Act will not change the ethnic composition of America. We will not be overwhelmed by immigrants from Asia, from Africa, from the Caribbean, from any one country. They swore up and down. In fact, the 1965 Immigration Act, and their quotes, by the way, are all in Adios America, they're acted exactly the opposite of that. Basically, Western European immigration was shut down. We were overwhelmed with the third world. Now, if anybody complains about it, they call you a racist. Well, no, we're just saying was Teddy Kennedy a racist for saying it wouldn't do all of the things it did? And no, manifestly it's true. We want Westerners who can speak English. Just one thing on you were talking about how they don't have enough money for the wall. I was thinking when you were saying that, you know, as long as these countries are such fantastic countries, maybe we could get, you know, cut off the foreign aid to all of them and use that for the wall.
Or tax remittances, or shut down remittances to other countries altogether. I mean, they send $20 billion out of the country, 50% tax, you get $10 billion right there. Michael, I want to go to you on this. Your reaction to the president's reported comment.
Well, I first thank you, Laura, for having me on again. I have to say, just for context, I happen to have been the president's immigration lawyer for over 10 years, acting on behalf of Trump models and Miss Universe and so forth. A staunch Democrat, I still represent actually Mrs. Trump. I have to tell you that I was disappointed by the words and the tone. I did not believe the president to be a bigot. I think this is a contentious issue, and a president should be speaking in a presidential capacity with better choice of words. But the fact is the dialogue has deteriorated. We have, unfortunately, leaders in this nation in both houses that have not done anything to fix this broken immigration system. It's festering. And, you know, family reunification was a hallmark of the 1965 Act. It's now been given a derogatory term of chain migration. So we got a lot of things to fix. Guys, without interrupting, let me just say something. We have 50,000 lottery visas, and we have 10,000 people getting EB-5s where they put $1 million in and buy green cards effectively. Yes, there's some things that we need to do. They want to drop brothers and sisters and in exchange put in a merit-based special visa for entrepreneurs. I'm all for, you know, adding more venues to get legal immigrants. I don't think we want criminals and MS-13 here.
Right. Well, let me get into that, because we promised our viewers we would share some information tonight that we uncovered today. I was going around the internet, and I logged on the Denver Post website. It's an interesting website. They report on some cool issues that I care about. And crime is one of them. And there was a major heroin bust in Colorado this week. There's a 61-count indictment against 6 individuals. Now, we called over, and I guess we transferred a few times around. We found out that in addition to the main suspect, Flores Rosales, 47-year-old Cristobal Flores Rosales, Juan Borges Meza, Mario Acosta Ruiz, and Yoel Soto Campos, and Jose Torres Espinoza are all illegal immigrants. This was a $264,000 worth of drugs, including heroin. We know what heroin is doing to our youth. We know it's doing to our societies. It is poisoning them. That's just one example. And that's why it matters, because real lives are affected. And how many of these kids could be DACA recipients if they hadn't been busted in a heroin ring.
Laura,
Michael, they could receive DACA amnesty, could they not?
Laura, get these criminals out. Get this insidiousness, the opioids, the heroin.
Michael,
get them out.
Why should our law enforcement?
Are you going to conflate 900,000 innocents with MS-13?
Not this. No. What, Michael? Here's what you could do. You know, again, this might work in your law practice. Doesn't work with me. These are individuals who are taxing our police, our district attorneys, our government services by poisoning our youth.
If they're criminals, they cannot get DACA.
Oh, they're all valedictorians, right, Michael? Mark Krikorian. They shouldn't be in this country. They shouldn't have been allowed in this country, and they never should be here.
They cannot get DACA if they're criminals.
Yeah, because we caught them. How many didn't we catch?
There's 2 points on the crime issue that are relevant here. You have the supporters of big immigration say immigrants, when you add them all together, they're not that much more likely or less likely to be criminals than Americans when you add them all together. That might be true. We don't know, because Ann said the data doesn't exist. They don't collect it. There are 2 points that matter here. One, illegal immigrants shouldn't be here, so one crime is too many.
One American life isn't worth it.
And immigrant communities, even though most of the people are perfectly innocent, they serve as kind of cover for rings like this. These guys were not operating out in some suburban place. They were in an immigrant community.
I have to share another anecdote. This is very important. This happened about 10 miles from Washington, D.C., where we're broadcasting from right now. Go back to Valentine's Day of last year. Female MS-13 gang member, 17 years of age, had another girl in her grips and stabbed her multiple times, killing her. She went on tape. The confession was taped and released to Local 5 News, Fox 5 here in Washington. Watch.
You need to tell me what you did to her.
I killed her.
How did you kill her?
With a knife.
She said to her also, you'll see me again in hell. Don't forget my name. All reported, all admitted to. Another life that shouldn't have been taken, that shouldn't have been, this should never have happened, and you can take it away here, but I'm telling you, any destruction of life, property, rape, child abuse, DWI, why do the American people have to tolerate this so liberals feel better about themselves and their electoral chances and Republicans get cheap labor? Why?
Right, and they're not living in those neighborhoods. That happened last year?
No, that was this year.
This year.
Just
okay,
happened.
so that's in Trump's America. So, you know, we do have, if you could flash back to Trump promising
the confession was just released. The killing happened in Valentine's Day of last year. Yeah, in Valentine's Day of 2017.
The parents of the children murdered by illegal aliens, Trump said, brought them up on stage, God bless them, first time most Americans have even heard of them, and said over and over again, I won't forget you, I won't betray you. These killings going forward, if Trump does not keep his promises on immigration by building a wall and deporting illegals, these are going to be his Kate Steinleys. Now this is on his record. The next Pulse nightclub, that's going to be his. And he better remember the people who put him there.
Laura,
all right, guys. Real quick, Michael, go ahead.
The dialogue has deteriorated sadly, where you're giving the impression to everybody that most foreigners or immigrants are criminals.
No,
DACA recipients cannot be criminals, and I'm telling you right now, scaring the hell out of America is not in good taste.
Michael,
yes.
What if that were your daughter? What if that were your daughter with 12 knife wounds in her neck? What would you be saying? Would you be coming on this show saying, "Oh, the poor DACA kids"?
Laura,
I don't think so.
How dare you?
Now,
use
how
that
dare you
as
try to
an
make that
example.
argument? We did not say 800,000 DACA people were responsible
federal prosecutor.
for crimes. Mark Krikorian just said that. So don't tell me that we said something
Can I
that we
say
didn't
something, or you want to
Donald
talk over me?
Donald Trump should get a new immigration lawyer. We're out of time. If you
Laura,
thought they
I'm
were
a former
just coming
federal
after
prosecutor.
conservatives,
Use better.
You're wrong. The potentially invasive tactics from Silicon Valley could affect all of you. Up next.